Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ecosystem Aces. I'm excited to be joined by Jeff Mattan. Jeff is Vice President of Partner Programs and Operations at BeyondTrust. And Jeff, I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun. I loved all the pre-podcast prep. It gets me going. So thanks, Chip.
Yeah. So Jeff, your role is really interesting. You know, a few months ago, I spoke with Rob Spee. Maybe it was in the spring. Who's Senior VP of Partnerships at BeyondTrust, and kind of leading the charge and talking about all the new, sort of ways of thinking about partnering that BeyondTrust is putting in place. And you're at the heart of it. You're the one that is in charge of making it all happen. So I'm excited to dive in a little bit and hear about the great things that are happening at BeyondTrust. Your background is, gosh, I think you've been at BeyondTrust about 3 years. Is that right? And then
Correct.
prior to that, Outwork and gosh, you've had Netgear, Juniper, Sprint, a great background in technology and technology providers. So excited to have you here, Jeff, and welcome.
Thank you, Chip. Yeah, my career, geez, about 17, 18 years ago, I decided to focus on partners. It was part of a layoff, and I actually took almost 2 years off. I was single at the time and could do that. And I kept coming back to partners, and I kept coming back to operations and programs as what I wanted to do. So I've done that with a smattering of enablement thrown in over the last 15, 17 years.
That's fantastic. Well, why don't we start with, I kind of teed it up a little bit with all the changes and things that are in the works with BeyondTrust. Maybe share a little bit about what you're up to, what you and your team are up to, and where you are on the journey right now.
Yeah. So for those folks that might not have seen the podcast with Rob Spee, Rob owns the channel from soup to nuts globally, and my team's role is operations and programs to actually enable that and make it happen. So Rob has been here 2 years. I actually referred him into the company. It was interesting, get referring my boss, and he has been on a steady march to convert us from a legacy, just VAR transactional type channel to an ecosystem that surrounds the customer with value, largely because that's what customers were asking for. We all know this, but it was happening and we really weren't taking advantage of it. So we've done things like revamp the partner program so that now we have tracks for MSPs, GSIs, service delivery programs, or partners, partners that provide more value than just the transaction. And so that plus having things like badging programs and all the systems being updated, making sure that we have services capable partners is really what my team's been working on. There's a lot more in there, but one great thing that the team does, and we all love on this team, is we work with almost every department internally at BeyondTrust. Plus we get to work with partners and vendors. So you have to be really collaborative. And I'm fortunate that that's something I like doing, because in this role, you never have enough resources like others. But you have to rely on others in the company to kind of get your vision and help you. So there's a lot there, which I think we'll do follow-ups on, but that's what we've been doing over the last couple of years. It's a big transformation.
It's interesting, yeah, and you're right in the thick of it. You're sort of the driving force, and helping Rob sort of architect all of this. How do you think about that transition? And let me say, like, let's start off with sort of where are you along that journey right now? Would you say, you're 20% in, you're 50% in, you're 70% in? Where are you on that journey?
I think we're around 40%. And I said that, Chip, because we actually have a journey graphic that we have used. I think we borrowed it from one of the channel consultancies. They had posted online, like, where are you in your, to getting all the way to be ecosystem and partner led, and we're squarely in the middle. And when you look at where we should be, because we actually put years on everything as the column headers, we're right in the middle, but we have a few things that we haven't done yet in 2023. So that's why I say we're around 40%. We have a lot of momentum, a lot of things in flight. In fact, my weekly report this week is going to have a lot of things that are stuck that I need to get moving, but we are just short of halfway.
So, and I love that as you describe it, you mentioned that it literally touches every part of the business. Yeah. So the work that you're doing is it's a little bit of almost kind of evangelism, right? I mean, because it's change management. It's bringing the whole organization along. And how have you thought about that? And are there some things that you put in place to sort of bring the rest of the organization along and kind of make sure that they're on the journey with you?
Evangelism is a good way of saying that, because we actually talk about that. There's whether it's good or bad, there's an opportunity to be a partner evangelist every day. And so we try to take advantage of that. So little things we've done, we put in a communications plan. Like, we're ops and programs, but whenever we do anything, we have a checklist now that says, here are all the people, teams, stakeholders that need to be told and why. And we basically look at the checklist and say, which of these are relevant to this thing we're doing, whether it's a change in Salesforce, a new program, a new incentive. Like, we want to make sure that we talk to the right people, because we had too many instances of people being surprised. And those people weren't just sellers. Sometimes they were our own CAMs, the channel account managers. Like, how did we miss that? Because we didn't tell the people that are our biggest customers who are doing this thing, like, how? But there's also people who work on the systems, like the data management people, the Salesforce admins. They have to know what we're doing. And so part of what we've done is that communications plan. We've also realized that the journey that you mentioned, a few minutes ago, we need to be better about telling that story internally, because that's the why we're doing this. And sometimes a lot of teams look at us and just say, you just keep telling us you need things. And we realized we didn't tell them why and what we're doing to give them the bigger picture. So we do a lot of that there. And whenever someone has a free spot for an internal communications or team call, we raise our hands and jump on it, tell them about the newest partner thing, because you have to refresh their memory. And part of that, Chip, is because, like a lot of folks who probably watch your podcasts, we're a split company in terms of we have direct sales and we have indirect sales. And we came from a direct legacy where everything was done by a BT salesperson. So we have to make sure we constantly overcome that obstacle and remind people, here's what we're doing, here's why, and here's what's in it for you. So we do that a lot.
I love that. It really is. It is a team sport. Getting there. So, how are you thinking about sort of aligning the teams, from the partner success team, national CAMs, services CAMs, all those teams, making sure that they know their role. And by the way, I love this. I love the always coming back to the why, right? Because then it's not just like, oh, go do this. It's like, oh, now I understand, and I understand my role, and I understand, that this is I'm helping support the overall company, vision and strategy. So I love that. But how do you get the teams aligned?
Yeah. So those three teams you mentioned, partner success, national CAMs, and services CAMs, 2 years ago, they didn't even exist. We just didn't have that. So Rob put together a plan to carve out some new roles to support different parts of the business and different customers, or excuse me, different partners. So Each of those teams has a remit. They have metrics they get measured on. Some are overlapping, but we have that. Plus, Rob tells the story. We all tell the story internally of why we have these teams, what they're trying to do, and again, what's in it for you. A lot of the what's in it for you is aimed at our sellers, because we want to make sure they understand, hey, you do get paid on this stuff. And if you don't get paid on it, we'll fix that. For instance, partner services, we're working on a program for that right now. And by the way, here's how this makes your life better and helps you retire more quota. So let's look at services cams. So services cams really exist as an overlay function to ensure that our partners are skilled up to deploy. We have a backlog of deployments. We also have a PS team that's pretty small who doesn't want to be in the services business. They do have a small P&L, but they would like to do bigger, more important custom engagements, not deploy. So our services cams have a role of making sure that they pick the right partners, make sure they're skilled up with the right training, so they're attached to the right people internally and the right training, and then communicate the heck out of, hey, here's your group of partners in your area who can do services for you, to our sellers. So that's how we have their roles. And they also have to tell the cams, here's who you have. So it comes into the whole focus partner type setup where we have to make sure in each category we have partners plugged in so that a seller and a cam knows who to go to for the, that thing they need that provides value to a customer.
And have you put in some incentive programs to sort of measure and make sure that everyone's pulling in the same direction or the right direction?
We have, and just before we go, one caveat. I'm describing what we're doing. That doesn't mean everything's going smoothly, right? We're doing a lot of things, and a lot of what we do is launch and learn, because we want to get things out there. You're not going to get it right 100% of the time, but you want to get it out there. So all these things have been tweaked since they were launched, including the roles we just talked about.
I love that term. I'm going to steal that term. Launch and learn.
Go for it. Yeah. And the incentives we've given are, so my team is paid similarly to the cams and the service cams. Everyone, we're on the commission plan, right? Next year, I'm going to move to the bonus program because now we are in the greater go-to-market ops team. We moved out of channel, but we still support channel and partners. But the way we all get paid, including the services cams and the regular cams, is we've got to have a certain amount of partner revenue. We've got to get so many people trained and skilled up, and we'll do things with the services cams in terms of number of implementations. And we're looking at doing things like NPS scores as well. Has to be a high score, because we don't want just any implementation. We want a high quality one, because we could do it ourselves if we don't care about this and we're just going to go fast. So that's how we're doing that. We also have had some small bonuses put on our sellers. If they're at a certain amount of their quota and they do these things with partners, they get a little bit extra. So we're trying to remind them and give them incentives for that. But a lot of what we do in the partner world is we're tied to specific partner incentives for our variables, metrics for our variables. And that's how we've tried to align people in their roles with doing these really important things with partners that'll hopefully develop them for the future.
So that's for sort of internal measurement.
Oh, you're looking external. Okay.
And that, that was my question, but I'm just kind of going to the next part, which is then now we talked about internal. How about external? I think that's interesting as well.
There are definitely incentives.
Yeah.
What we did, Chip, is when we developed the different tracks in the partner program. So we don't have a separate partner program for the different types of partners. We basically say, here's the global program. Click to accept. It's an online agreement, and you become a reseller. Okay. But in the contract that you agreed to, you have the ability to be an MSP as well as a service delivery partner. So you just have to go get trained and meet the requirements, and then you get that. And the incentives we have there are usually better discounts for the MSPs because they're doing more work. For service delivery partners, that's where we really focused a lot in the last year. We need more services partners. So that's where we spend a lot of time, and my team spent a lot of time. So those folks get access to a certain number of certifications. If they get to a certain level, they can qualify to actually do services on our behalf. So we actually give them contract out services to them, which are a higher margin. If they do a good job, with all this, they can actually get into the program that we have that is called partner package services, meaning we skew up services of theirs. So they're not doing it for us.
Wow.
It's them, but our people get paid on it because our sellers still retire the quota. So what we've tried to do to simplify that is say, hey, partner, don't tell us what you can do. Here is what we need. Build this. This is what we're going to skew up. And then our people are going to sell it to try to make it easy, because that's the first thing is, can we prove the model? But partners can qualify for not only delivering services on our behalf, but having our people sell their services on our that are skewed up in our system.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's a true co-sell.
Yeah, we're really pushing that, trying to get it going. And what we do for those partners is we do measure their NPS on their implementations, because that's what the services are in this world right now. And so they have to maintain a certain score, and the score is from the customer, but also from the BeyondTrust folks who are involved, so that we get scores from a few different places.
I love that. That's really, you're really moving the bar there. I think that's I don't know that I've seen that before. It's really that's terrific.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We didn't know that we were a little bit on our own doing these things until Rob and I have recently attended some channel conferences or partner conferences and learned that a lot of people had questions for us, because they're not doing like, oh, okay, we're actually out further than we thought. That's good to know.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how are you managing this all? Let's talk about processes and systems and things like that.
Yeah, we have three main systems we're using for what I've described. Salesforce, we have it in there. We integrate as much as we can. We pull all our metrics from there. Second one is the partner portal. We use in partner. We're doing things like rolling out their partner compliance module. And we've modified it because the compliance module can only look at one partner track, but we've modified it with the help of an in-partner partner to be able to show if a reseller does this, but they also are service delivery, can we show both things and see how they're doing? And then that's against partner program requirements. The third thing is we use Gainsight for the NPS surveys. We've been using that for a long time internally with our customers. We've leveraged it as the partner team. And again, the collaboration. We don't have any expertise in Gainsights. We don't have more people to do it. The folks internally collaborated with us. We just had to ask them what we needed or tell them what we needed, and they were able to help us. So that was really good to have them partnering on this partnering activity. So those are the real tools we use. There's some others, but those are the three biggies that we're using right now to enable, track, and then measure the scores.
Yeah. How about for enablement? Enablement certification and kind of getting partners up to speed.
Right. I can't remember the LMS we have. It's from our BeyondTrust University, BTU. I'm trying to think through it. Just can't right now. But we have that. So we've integrated that somewhat with the partner portal. So we can pull through, we can get people from the portal to the courses they need for certifications. Then we've actually integrated it back to Salesforce so we can measure and see how many of this type of certification do they have. But we have that available. We've also expanded our workshops. What we found, because we actually implemented a year and a half ago a partner survey, a quarterly survey, and we found partners consistently wanted three things. They wanted enablement, better technical enablement. They wanted simplicity. Some of our processes were really hard. Like you'd look at them and go, who did this? So we need to fix that. And they wanted more engagement. and they wanted more engagement with not just our sellers when a deal was happening, when it wasn't. A lot of relationship building enablement there. So that's how enablement happens at that level. But the technical enablement that they really wanted, we've done through that BeyondTrust University using our LMS to serve them up certification training. But we also have done this these things called Beyond Techs, which are virtual and in-person tech training. And the cool thing there is it's not just training people who show up to help out the partners. Pro services show up, our SEs show up. So it's all these experts that do these things. And so they're the ones actually in the rooms helping out, either virtually or in person. And that fosters so much better learning and relationship building. And that's actually where we've been able to drive a lot of collaboration internally with partners, when some of those folks would see these really good technical partners show up for Beyond Tech. And we'd say, those are the partners we'd like to have in the service delivery program. They're like, oh yeah, they're really good. They did this and this and this. They wouldn't have known that unless they went to that enablement, that those pro services people at BeyondTrust, unless they went to that enablement event and did that. So we're trying to do more of those to foster relationships with not just us, right, with others internally.
Yeah, I love that. That's I was with SAP for many years and ran our tech ed program for about 8 years globally, and that was one of the big. SAP always had its education program, right? You can go through and take courses. The value of tech ed was exactly what you're saying. Like we'd have product managers, we'd have, enterprise architects, we'd have developers, we'd have the people that are actually, and then get those connections going, not only to learn very deeply, right, but also get the connections. They'd all be, people would be coming up afterwards, exchanging business cards and making sure that you're connecting.
Yeah, and it's great. And we even have now in our price book a thing called co-delivery. So for those partners who want to learn to do service delivery, who haven't done it before we had this whole service delivery track, we can actually sell something called co-delivery, where they do some of the work and our PS team right next to them does some of the work. So it's not shadowing. It's actually on the job, and we both do it. And they can learn side by side. And that's been great as well, because it just, again, is a way to develop relationships, but watch the experts do the work, as well as have someone to ask questions of right there, typically online, because you're doing it virtually, the implementations, but it's just a lot easier to get things done and skill up. And it's easier to actually sell that. And that's something we have that allows partners to qualify for a higher cert level, which gets them into a higher level for service delivery, which qualifies for some of those incentives as before. So we've kind of given them a way to go, and depending on where they are, kind of go at their speed.
So Jeff, you talked about how you're working with partners and co-selling in a way of skewing some of their service capabilities so that your sales teams are selling their product, and you're sort of going to market together. Are you to talk about how there may be some partners that have really advanced to a level where they're providing some, or maybe you're seeing repeat processes where and you mentioned what was it? Co-build? It wasn't co. It was co-create. Co-create, I think it was.
Delivery.
And co-delivery as well. But I'm wondering about creating joint solutions together, like creating solutions with partners, whether it is a certain use case or a certain industry or a certain region or whatever. Is that happening as well, where you've got some partners that are BeyondTrust plus this partner, maybe it's 2 or 3 partners coming together to bring something to market together?
We've started discussions there. I don't think we can't say we've actually delivered anything there. Where we've gotten to is for services, we have co-delivery. We have partners who qualify to do it and can sell ours. We have a few partners who are skewed up. We resell theirs, and our people get paid on it. In terms of actually building together and co-development, we've really just started those discussions, But what we've been able to do is look at what are current solutions we all have and do things called trifectas. And trifecta is largely a marketing event to go out and tell the joint story. It's led to joint solution briefs, things like that, but not product shit, really, Chip. But what we found is when we do these trifectas, which means it's us plus 2 more partners, and it's typically a GSI and a reseller, or a TAP, a technical alliance partner, and a reseller, we drive so many more people to the events. So a typical event gets 150 people, these get 700. And so that's because the customers are already talking to multiple people to solve the problem, right? So we just happen to bring the multiple people into the same room. The next step will be, how do we actually build products together, which also reports up into Rob's team, but they have more hooks into our product team to get those people working with the partners. That's less of what I do.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, that's a terrific. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be literally building products together, integrated products, but you've got some capability. They have capabilities that are complementary and that come together, and then you're going to market together. I love that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So we have, folks that are watching are all partner folks. You guys have been on an incredible, journey at BeyondTrust of transforming the organization. Any advice that you would have for other partner leaders that, what's helped you along the way and gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah. So there's a few things that we do and I do that have really helped. It's the collaboration. You've got to get input from people. You got to tell them what you're doing. You got to ask for help too. So that's a big one. Communication is huge. Don't assume people know what you're doing. Don't assume people care what you're doing. But make sure you start telling them what's going on. And for us, there's a lot around pilot. I don't know if it's specific to us as a company, but launching a new program, hard to do. Launching a new pilot, yeah, let's pilot. Let's see if it works. Just naming it that helps. And you also make it smaller. So that helps a lot. Yeah. But, and for me, in my career, if I can really talk with legal, because a lot of when you start a program, you need a lot of help from legal, and understand what they do, what their process is, and plug into that, as well as the systems people, because those are where the biggest challenges are, those 2 areas. And for us now, we've moved past legal because we've really established systems as a challenge because there's just not enough people. We were a company that was, a bunch of acquisitions before. So one system of record was never chosen. And they just tried to merge things together. And so now we're kind of building on top of that. So that presents challenges. So I think it's just understanding the challenges and the work habits of your systems people as well will help you. And so for me, I got a weekly call with the guy who runs up what we call our biz apps team. They're the ones who do all the things, all the updates in Salesforce, fix all the bugs. Just because I want to talk to them about what's going on with them, but share with them, here are my things that, they're at this scoring level, which means they won't get picked up by someone on your team. Actually, I want to prioritize those higher. They should have scored higher. Can you do these? And we move things up and down. So it's the communication, it's the collaboration, and it's really pilot. But you got to understand the other groups you're working with and what they're facing so that you can help them do their job. Way easier said than done, though, Chip, because we're all busy. We all think that our stuff is way more important than others. And I also have this theory that everyone else's job is easier than mine, right? Because we constantly hear people saying, oh, this should be easy to change this field in Salesforce. How do you know? But you assume it's easy. So we're usually wrong. So it's just a little bit of empathy.
That's great. Those are those are some great words of advice, Jeff. Gosh, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking us through, where you are, where you're headed, and you've clearly, I know you're on a path, but you've been really successful so far and doing some really innovative things. So thank you. Really appreciate you sharing, Jeff.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I think that the journey graphic we talked about way in the beginning has helped us a ton as well, because the CRO now uses that. And so having that type of person on your side
Interesting. Right.
is a huge plus for all of us in these roles, because we're not just this group on the side anymore working with partners. We're squarely in the middle of the strategy.
Yeah.
So when you get to that, you're doing okay. It's still hard, but that's a really good milestone.
Yeah. Yeah. That means you're adding value to the business and it's showing an impact.
Yeah. You're not fighting it on your own anymore.
Right.
So.
Well, Jeff, thank you for joining, and thank you all for joining another episode of Ecosystem Aces. For Jeff Mattan, I'm Chip Rodgers, and thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jeff.